Chris, thank you. A very eye-opening story there. Speaking of opening eyes, we are now at the end of Autism Acceptance Month. Really love that change in the name because we are at least trying to move the conversation forward from raising awareness. That being said, the idea of raising awareness is by no means done. That's always a battle that's going to keep going on. And joining us now to talk about what's going on today to that effect, we are happy to have Stephen Hernandez. He's the Executive Director of the General Assembly's Commission on Women, Children, Seniors, Equity, and Opportunity. Stephen, thank you for taking the time to join us today. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having us.
Okay, give us the broad brushstrokes. What's happening at the Capitol? I know it starts at noon today, yes?
It does. You know, what's really exciting, and you just hit it on the head, it's the question of acceptance. The autism spectrum is neurodiversity. And like any type of diversity, we really need to understand and meet people where they are in that diversity. For some people, it may be as simple as just transition services from being a young person on the spectrum to becoming independent in some meaningful way. For other young people, it's much more meaningful. And in fact, autism and the spectrum of autism is so diverse that some people don't even realize that they're on the spectrum until they realize their children are, and their children are diagnosed. So it's important to bring awareness every year to the Capitol so that we understand the diversity that autism really does represent.
And I believe you're going to have a whole host of guest speakers talking about a variety of topics. And one of those topics you sort of touched on there. How can you tell if your child may be on the spectrum? What are some of the other topics that the guest speakers are going to talk about?
Well, thank you for that. You know, there are early diagnoses. I think it's at 8 months and at 12 months where you can have your child evaluated to figure out, to determine whether they're on the spectrum. But what you're also going to see is you're going to have tables with several resources that are available to families from the time that a child may be diagnosed into young adulthood, and then those critical transition services that I mentioned. What's great is that there's a community that really does help address the spectrum throughout the state of public and private providers, parents who are concerned, and others.
Okay, what else do people need to know in the short time we have about today's event?
You know, I think it's important to know that, like any diversity, we really need to understand where people are. Autism falls squarely upon young people. It falls squarely upon those who are underdiagnosed or misdiagnosed, and it certainly impacts people of color differently and people of modest means differently than it does people who have the opportunity to have primary care. So it's important to understand what your options are and for us to reach out to people and make sure that they have all the information. That's what today's about.
Yeah, it's 10 a.m. to 3. The program starts at noon. Mr. Hernandez, as you said, a wide variety of guest speakers. I love one of them, Dr. Hassan Minhas, who runs the autism program at the Hospital for Special Care in New Britain. He is wonderful. He's going to be speaking there today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We do really appreciate you helping to give a nice ending flourish to Autism Acceptance Month here in Connecticut.